great world rhythm were heartbeats of one soul. To feel was a flame discovery of God. All mind was a single harp of many strings, all life a song of many meeting lines. For words were many, but the self was one. This knowledge was now made a cosmos seed. This seed was cased in the safety of the light. It needed not a shield of ignorance.
Good morning. So we're in Book 3, the Book of the Divine Mother, in Canto 3, the House of the Spirit and the New Creation. And we've come to page 318, towards the bottom. So we've been following King Asupati's inner journey through all the kingdoms of the subtle worlds. And he had traversed all of them from subtle matter up towards the spirit. And then he entered the world soul and encountered there the Divine Mother. And that was at the end of Book 2. So now we are exploring in greater detail his encounter and interaction with the Divine Mother. So after meeting her at the end of Book 2, he went into the unknowable and into the pure spirit, kind of devoid of forms, beings. And then there, in the last canto, on page 312, I'll just read a little of that. Even while he stood on being's naked edge, and all the passion and seeking of his soul faced their extinction in some featureless vast, the presence he yearned for suddenly drew close. Across the silence of the ultimate calm, out of a marvelous transcendence core, a body of wonder and lucency, as if a sweet mystic summary of herself, escaping into the original bliss, had come enlarged out of eternity. Someone came, infinite and absolute, a being of wisdom, power, and delight. Even as a mother draws her child to her arms, took to her breast nature and world and soul, abolishing the signless emptiness, breaking the vacancy and voiceless hush, piercing the limitless unknowable into the liberty of the motionless depths, a beautiful and felicitous luster stole. The power, the light, the bliss no word can speak, imaged itself in a surprising beam and built a golden passage to his heart, touching through him all longing sentient things. So that's his second encounter with the Divine Mother. And now we saw just at the end of our reading last time on page 318, he again was underwent a transformation. He had seen within himself the darkness of the inconscient, still lurking in his depths. And then he tore desire up from its bleeding roots and offered to the gods the vacant place. Thus could he bear the touch immaculate. A last and mightiest transformation came. His soul was all in front like a great sea, flooding the mind and body with its waves. His being spread to embrace the universe, united the within and the without, to make of life a cosmic harmony, an empire of the immanent divine. So that's where we left off, towards the bottom of 318, and we'll continue from there now. And okay, we can start with Sudanya.
In this tremendous universality, not only his soul natures and mind sense, included every soul and mind in his, but even the life of flesh and nerve was changed, and grew one flesh and nerve with all that lives. He felt the joy of others as his joy. He bore the grief of others as his grief. His universal sympathy upbore, immense like oceans, the creation's Lord, as earth upbear all beings sacrifice, thrilled with the hidden transcendent joy and peace. There was no more divisions, endless scroll. One grew the spirit, secret unity. All nature felt again the single bliss. There was no cleavage between soul and soul. There was no barrier between world and God. Overpowered were from the memory's limiting line. The covering mind was seized and torn apart. It was dissolved, and now no more could be. The one consciousness that made the world was seen. All now was, what is this? Luminosity and forces.
Thank you. So after this last transformation of Aswapati comes, there is a unification of the within and the without, and he becomes one with all around him. There is a unification of his soul and his nature. And even the life of flesh and nerve was changed and grew one flesh and nerve with all that lives. So you see this tremendous universality that his being achieves, as if even physically he's one with all around. He's one being with the universe. He felt the joy of others as his joy and bore the grief of others as his grief. His universal sympathy upbore, immense like ocean, the creation's load. As earth upbears all beings' sacrifice. So he's taking up also all the difficulty of the world, all its grief he feels within him, and he's upbearing that, he's supporting all of that with his being. There was no cleavage between soul and soul. There was no barrier between world and God. So within also he's united with the divine, at the same time united with the world, with the universe around him. So all becomes one. Overpowered were form and memory's limiting line. The covering mind was seized and torn apart. The one consciousness that made the world was seen. All now was luminosity and force. So we continue, would you?
Abolished in its last thin, fainting trace, the circle of the little self was gone. The separate being could no more be felt. It disappeared and knew itself no more, lost in the spirit's wide identity. His nature grew a movement of the all, exploring itself to find that all was he. His soul was a delegation of the all that turned from itself to join the one supreme. Transcended was the human formula. Man's heart that had obscured the invisible assumed the mighty beating of a god's. His seeking mind ceased in the truth that knows. His life was a flow of the universal life. He stood fulfilled on the world's highest line, awaiting the ascent beyond the world, awaiting the descent the world to save.
Thank you. Let's pause there. So we see that his sense of ego, of being a separate person, completely vanishes, and perhaps even at the physical, material level, because he grew one self, one flesh and nerve with all. So he is lost in the Spirit's wide identity, identified with all through the Spirit, which permeates all existence. His nature grew a movement of the all, exploring itself to find that all was He the divine being. His soul was a delegation of the all. His individual being is simply a representative of the cosmic being. That turned from itself to join the One Supreme. So he's united individually with the cosmic and at the same time with the transcendent being, the One Supreme. Transcended was the human formula, man's heart that had obscured the inviolable. The inviolable means that which cannot be marred, cannot be violated. His heart assumed the mighty beating of a god's, and his seeking mind ceased in the truth that knows. The mind becomes silent and he enters into a supreme knowledge, supreme truth. And his life, again, a flow of the universal life. So in that state of oneness with the divine and with the world, he stood fulfilled on the world's highest line, awaiting the ascent beyond the world, awaiting the descent, the world to save. So he's there at the edge of the creation, looking up to the supreme transcendent, waiting for the supreme transcendent to bring the higher force down out of itself to transform the world. So we can continue from there, Tineke.
A splendor and a symbol wrapped the earth. Serene epiphanies looked and hollowed vast, surrounded. Wise infinitudes were close, and bright remotenesses leaned near and kin. Sense failed in the tremendous lucency. Ephemeral voices from his hearing fell, and thought potent no more sank large and pale, like a tired god into mysterious seas. The ropes of mortal thinking were cast down, leaving his knowledge bare to absolute sight. Fate's driving ceased, and nature's sleepless spur. The athlete heavings of the will were stilled in the omnipotent's unmoving peace. Life in his members lay down vast and mute. Naked, unwalled, unterrified, it bore the immense regard of immortality. The last movement died, and all at once grew still. A weight that was the unseen transcendence hand laid on his limbs the spirit's measureless seal. Infinity swallowed him into shoreless trance.
Thank you. This first line is a little mysterious to me. Maybe somebody else has an idea. This symbol, I can understand a splendor wrapping the earth, this kind of tremendous divine presence. And then we see serene epiphanies and hallowed vastness and wise infinitudes and bright remotenesses, all embracing the earth. But why a symbol? I'm not sure. His senses fail. The ephemeral voices from his hearing fell, and thought, potent no more, sank, large and pale, like a tired god, into mysterious seas. The robes of mortal thinking were cast down, leaving his knowledge bare to absolute sight. Fate's driving ceased, and nature's sleepless spur. The symbol of?
The symbol, the splendor and the symbol that is yet to come.
Perhaps. A first kind of touch of it or something.
Like something that I already decided is attended
Yeah. Yeah, the first taste of what is of the new creation, this embrace of the divine.
Do you think this cosmic dynamic of these two awakenings? So is there awakening to ascent and descent? So this is an elaboration of that, and it's like this huge God sinking into the ocean. It's coming down, something is coming down and being revealed. So it's so large that it extends infinitely. It's immortal. So I don't know, it feels like he's trying to get how infinity can follow up everything.
Oh, you see all of his nature quieting down. Of course, he's unified with the universal nature power. But all of that is quieting down in the omnipotence, unmoving peace. So the all-powerful's unmoving peace in the silence of the all-powerful. The last movement died, and all at once grew still. He's in this tremendous place where there's all power, but it's all kind of withdrawn, perhaps waiting to express itself, getting ready to express itself. And then a weight that was the unseen transcendence hand laid on his limbs the Spirit's measureless seal. Infinity swallowed him into shoreless trance. Mm-hmm. Yeah, the last movement died. All his separate self died. All movement died. And he swallowed into shoreless trance. The Spirit's measureless seal, it's interesting, I don't know, but as if he's perhaps the chosen one, representative, that through him all will be changed, transformed. So we'll continue. Would you like to read?
As one who sets his sail towards mysterious shores, driven through huge oceans by the breath of God, the fathomless below, the unknown around, his soul abandoned the blind star field, space. Afar from all that makes the measured world, plunging to hidden eternities it withdrew, back from mind's foaming surface to the vasts, voiceless within us in omniscient sleep, above the imperfect reach of word and thought, beyond the sight that seeks support of form, lost in deep tracts of superconscient light, or voyaging in blank feederless nothingness, soul in the trackless incommensurable, or past not self and selflessness, transgressing the dream shores of conscious mind, he reached at last his sempiternal base. On sorrowless hates no winging cry disturbs, pure and untouched above this mortal play, is spread the Spirit's hushed immobile air. There no beginning is, and there no end. There is the stable force of all that moves. There the aeonic labora is at rest.
Thank you. Let's pause. In the previous line, we had read, infinity swallowed him into shoreless trance. And now we get a sense of being in that deep trance, as if he's now kind of voyaging deep within through the infinite. Driven through huge oceans by the breath of God, the fathomless below, the unknown around. His soul abandoned the blind star-field space. He's going beyond the world, the manifestation, into the infinite being of God. Far from all that makes the measured world, plunging to hidden eternities, it withdrew deep within, back from mind's foaming surface to the vast, voiceless within us in omniscient sleep. A sleep that's all-knowing, conscious. Above the imperfect reach of word and thought, beyond the sight that seeks support of form, lost in deep tracks of superconscient light, or voyaging in blank, featureless nothingness. Soul in the trackless incommensurable. See how he's voyaging in this infinite inner space. Past not self and selflessness. Transgressing the dream shores of conscious mind, he reached at last his sempiternal base. Essentially, it's eternal, but I forget now. This sem is a Latin prefix, which I don't recall. But essentially, always existing, I think. Mm-hmm. So then we get a...
He's still journeying, but he's journeying in the nowhere. And he's having give another dimension of that vastness of that journey, which is not really a journey, but he gets there.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he arrived at another place. So these are the shoreless tracks. So there's no shore, but he still gets there. So,
yeah, it's curious.
It's still rest. It's the rest.
But even that base has no beginning or end. And again, we see that stable force the force self-contained. The yonic laborer is at rest. So we'll continue. Excuse me.
There turns no kid creation in the void, no giant mechanism watched by a soul. There creaks no fate turn huge machinery. The marriage of evil with good within one breast. The clash of strife in the very clasp of love. The dangerous pains of life's experiment in the values of inconsequence and chance. The peril of mind's gamble, throwing our lives as stake in a wager of indifferent gods, and the shifting lights and shadows of the idea falling upon the surface consciousness. And in the dream of a mute witness soul, creating the error of the half-seen world, where knowledge is a seeking ignorance. Life steps, a stumbling series without suit, its aspect of fortuitous design, its equal measure of the true and false, in that immobile and immutable realm, find no access, no cause, no right to live. There only reigns the Spirit's motionless power, poised in itself through still eternity, and its omniscient and omnipotent peace.
Thank you. In this part, Sri Aurobindo is describing this infinity through a contrast with our own world or our own experience. So there he says, there turns no keyed creation in the void. That's how our world seems to us, as if turning around forever in the void. No giant mechanism watched by a soul. It's as if nature operates like a mechanism, a machine, always turning by its own force, its own principle. And meanwhile, the soul, the consciousness, looks on, watches this, and maybe is caught in it, or perhaps it can separate itself and look at it dispassionately. And then the marriage of evil with good within one breast. The clash of strife and the very clasp of love. That's our experience of life. We have this good and evil within us. We strive or engage in conflict and love with the same people. The dangerous pain of life's experiment in the values of inconsequence and chance. It seems that all this turmoil and struggle that we go through is really without any consequence, meaning, significance, lasting import. It just struggles, and we have this pain for a while, and then it subsides, and then it continues. And it just seems, in a way, due to chance, as if some random events come up and upset things for a time, disappear. And the peril of mind's gamble, throwing our lives as stake in a wager of indifferent gods. We take a chance, throw our life in this direction or that, into this career, this life path, not really knowing whether that's the true thing for us or not. And then all of this drama is looked on by indifferent gods. What is the meaning, significance of all of this? Shifting lights and shadows of the idea falling upon the surface consciousness. We get little insights into our clouded, shadowed mind awareness. Little gleams of light here and there. And in the dream of a mute witness soul, creating the error of a half-seen world where knowledge is a seeking ignorance. All our knowledge amounts only to that. It's a seeking ignorance. It never really knows anything truly. Always searching, trying to piece together a greater understanding. But it's always limited and deficient. Life's steps, a stumbling series without suit, without really coherence, without a true consequence or result. Its aspect of fortuitous design, as if somehow things just kind of come together by chance, but yet it may be some kind of pattern might be there, some design, but it is as if it comes by chance, fortuitous. Its equal measure of the true and false. All of this in that immobile and immutable realm in which Aswapati is now journeying, find no access, no cause, no right to live. There only reigns the Spirit's motionless power, poised in itself through still eternity. And its omniscient and omnipotent peace. It's a state of absolute understanding, power, but at the same time power withheld within itself, at peace.
It is not very interesting that it is very silent, it's still,
Yeah.
it doesn't have any attribute, it doesn't have any features, featureless attribute. That is what we are saying. There is a space inside which is no movement. That is very common. But at the same time, there is some power which you experience. This kind of movement.
Yeah, sometimes
And then it goes to come in the form of whatever you feel inside the body. And you just align and harmonious with the world around you.
yeah, it's said, he kind of uses similes and metaphors of like a pregnant rest. So it's like containing something, this life that can emerge out of it, but it's held within. Sometimes he speaks of this brooding presence as if it's holding something within itself. So he continues a little bit with this contrast. We can continue. Sir, would you like to read? Thought clashes.
Clashes, not with thought, and truth with truth. There is no war of right with rival right. There are no stumbling and half-seeing lives, passing from chance to unexpected chance. No suffering of hearts compelled to beat. In bodies of the inert inconscience make, armed with the moon occult unseeking fire, the guardians of eternity keep its law, forever fixed upon truth's giant base, in her magnificent and termless home. Their nature, or her damp spiritual couch, immutably transcend knows her source, and to the stir of multitudinous words, a sense unmoved in a perpetual calm, all causing, all sustaining and aloof. The witness looks from his unshaken poise, an eye immense regarding all things done, apart, at peace above creation's stir, immersed in the eternal altitudes. He abode defended in his shoreless self, companioned only by the all-seeing One.
Thank you. It's interesting how Sri Aurobindo, in his description of this tremendous, infinite state of consciousness, intersperses it with a kind of a commentary on our own existence and its frailty, its limited nature. So he begins here, thought clashes not with thought, and truth with truth. Commenting on our own nature. There is no war of right with rival right. There are no stumbling and half-seeing lives passing from chance to unexpected chance. No suffering of hearts compelled to beat in bodies of the inert inconscience make. It's kind of a terrible critique of our nature. There, armed with the immune, occult, unsinking fire, the guardians of eternity keep its law, forever fixed upon truth's giant base, in her magnificent and termless home. Their nature, on her dumb spiritual couch, immutably transcendent, knows her source, and to the stir of multitudinous worlds, assents, unmoved, in a perpetual calm. It's a little unclear to me exactly what he's saying here about nature, but it seems as if it's quiet. It's, in a sense, withdrawn, like we've seen, into itself, that power withdrawn into itself on her dumb spiritual couch. Dumb, silent, unspeaking.
Also, I think what children are trying to say is that in this state, rest and activity are one.
Yeah.
They're not separate.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's a unity of rest and activity. Nature, immutably transcendent, knows her source. Into the stir of multitudinous worlds, a sense, unmoved, in a perpetual calm. And from here, in this transcendent consciousness, is all causing, all sustaining, and aloof. It's the spirit, that is causing it behind all, sustaining all, and yet aloof from all its activity. The witness looks from his unshaken poise. And I love this line, and eye immense, regarding all things done.
It's about nature.
Well, I don't know.
Isn't it pure awareness?
Yeah.
Aware of itself.
Mm.
But it's also creating everything at the same time.
From it, all creation emerges and issues forth. But it's as if this witness consciousness is aloof from it. It's standing back and observing.
But isn't the aloofness part of their nature? It's not something separate.
Mm-hmm. Right, it takes many different poises. This is one of its poises, this aloof poise. It's not that it's only that.
But he's talking about all poises in one.
Well,
He's got to the door of that.
yeah, perhaps. But we'll see, if you want to just skip down a little bit to the next section, then suddenly there came a downward look. So that poise changes. Okay? So I think he goes back and forth in describing this. Sometimes he goes into this transcendent poise, sometimes he enters into the creation with its power. And so we've kind of seen these shifts taking place quite a bit, I think, over the last few cantos. The mother force, she is the creator. And, but at the same time, she transcends that creation. Yeah, maybe not. I don't think so. But in order to describe these different aspects, Sri Aurobindo has to kind of shift back and forth between these different poises. Of perhaps all of this is contained, within that consciousness at one time, but our minds can only look at one thing at a time, kind of. Yeah. But it has all of those characteristics, right? It has that aloofness, it has that immersion, it becomes all. So we'll continue.
a mind too mighty to be bound by thought, a life too boundless for the play in space, a soul without borders, unconvinced of time. He felt the extinction of the world's long pain. He became the unborn self that never dies. He joined the sessions of infinity. On the cosmic murmur, primed loneliness fell. Annulled was the contact formed with time-born things. Empty grew nature's wide community. All things were brought back to their formless seed. The world was silent for a cyclic hour. Although the afflicted nature he had left maintained beneath him her broad, numberless fields. Her enormous act, receding, failed remote, as if a soulless dream at last had ceased. No voice came down from the high silences. None answered from her desolate solitudes. A stillness of cessation reigned, the wide, immortal hush before the gods are born. A universal force awaited, mute, the veiled transcendence ultimate decree.
Thank you. So after describing these contrasts between that other state and our experience here in this world, here he kind of says that Asapati goes beyond all of this world and enters into that. So his mind is too mighty to be bound by thought, his life too boundless for the play in space. His soul without borders, unconvinced of time. It's going beyond time, space. He felt the extinction of the world's long pain. He became the unborn self that never dies. He joined the sessions of infinity. So all of that turmoil of life recedes away from his experience. He enters into that unborn self, that spirit that infinity. And on the cosmic murmur, a primal loneliness fell. Annulled was the contact formed with time-born things. So as contact with that world ceases, our world, empty grew nature's wide community. All things were brought back to their formless seed. The world was silent for a cyclic hour. It almost reminds one of that world soul in which he first met the mother. And all things in that world soul are brought back to their original seed, their original form, for a space of time to reconstitute themselves for their further adventure in time and space. Something like that here. This world was silent for a cyclic hour. Pralaya? Yeah. Yeah.
It's like experiencing the recreation. All the old world is done by the erosion, so the recreation by the fire.
Yeah, there's that tradition that the creation after a time is withdrawn back into itself, into an extinction of itself, and then reemerges again through cycles of creation.
Going back to the beginning of Savitri itself, the hour before the God was now he's going back to the immortal life before the God was even born. I think he's going to get back to a very absolute ultimate.
And then he just puts in these two lines. Although the afflicted nature he had left maintained beneath him her broad, numberless fields. So even though he's, in a way, departed from that and it's broke off his contact with it, it continues, but then all of that recedes from his experience. Her enormous act, receding, failed, remote, as if a soulless dream at last had ceased. So for his experience, it's left behind. No voice came down from the high silences. None answered from her desolate solitudes. A stillness of cessation reigned, the wide, immortal hush before the gods are born. A universal force awaited, mute. The veiled transcendence' ultimate decree. Yeah, we can always draw back into that. But here also, this is the new creation. So a new creation is going to come, a supramental creation. And so he's going back into that transcendent from which that new creation will emerge. It's something that is not yet in the manifestation here, at least. So there's a new... Well, it took him a while. There was some years he was kind of struggling, but then... Yeah. Well, these creations, they somehow at some point they happen, right? So we kind of celebrate that on February 29th. A new world is born. So the anniversary is coming up. Well, they brought it down. We don't have to. Well, we have to manifest. Well, now we only have to open to it and allow it to manifest in us. But that power, that new creation is here. It's been made. And Mother talks about it as being sort of side by side with our reality here, like a lining of our world. And gradually it's substituting its vibrations for ours and slowly transforming our world. That
she always prepares the earth to bring more forward. So they push to more manifestation. Whatever Auroville wants to bring down.
So now it's just a matter, individually, we can open to that force, that omnipotent force that can manifest itself within us. And gradually, over time, over centuries, it will manifest a new creation here on earth. Mother says it may take a few centuries for the new race, a new type of being to manifest here. And at the same time, they talk of really a changed humanity. That it will have this powerful influence also over humanity and the human mind, bringing the possibility of a mind of light, a mind illuminated with that supramental light. Something quite different, I think, than our divided, struggling, ignorant mind, but something that knows, partaking of that greater light of the supermind. So that is also in store for humanity more within our grasp. So I think we stop there for today.
great world rhythm where heartbeats of one soul. To feel was a flame discovery of God. All mind was a single heart of many strings, all life a song of many meeting lines. For words were many, but the self was one. This knowledge was now made a cosmos seed. This seed was cased in the safety of the light. It needed not a shield of ignorance.
Thanks to Sri Aurobindo.